Welcome back to War Thunder and welcome aboard the Hori production. Yes, and today's tank review is about this very well-rounded, I nearly said Soviet, Japanese tank destroyer, which sits at a battle rating of 7.0 at rank 4. And this is, well, something that I'm not quite sure what to think about this. It's one of the higher battle rating rank 4 tanks. Especially the similarity to the Hori prototype is significant in the shape and appearance. However, there are some significant differences that I want to point out. And the first difference is that they are so similar in appearance. And so many people think, I know how to deal with the prototype, so it doesn't matter where I shoot, right? It's with certain guns. Well, the production differs in terms of mobility, a little bit the firepower, and obviously the armor. And one hidden part is the reverse gear, because currently I think it's a bit bugged and I've found a way to work around it. More about this later on. So without further ado, let's talk about the armor, and immediately we can see the upper hull is 120mm thick with rolled homogeneous armor at 70 degrees of angle. Just let that sink in for a moment. That is like the T-54-47 hull front with 10 degrees more of angling. That means you are safe from the L7 APDS, you are safe from even the 120mm hash rounds on the British. There is still in theory a chance, but in practice it doesn't really work out. You're safe from any sort of APHE and AP rounds in the game, and it's just fantastic. Just AP FSTS rounds when they have a lot of penetration and the positive normalization on the higher tier ones, or if you have very high penetrating heat rounds and the shells do not bounce, then you can penetrate, but even then it's not the end of the world because of what lies behind that. That brings us then to the mid-lower plate, so to speak, which is the actual weak spot with just 120mm, and it's rather flat. So most, I think even certain AAAs can penetrate you at this point in time. However, it is not the end of the world again, and just don't shoot at this part here and for this part here, because due to the heavy angling of 67 degrees most of the time in real battle performance around about 70 degrees, you still can bounce with there. And again, if you penetrate here, it's not the end of the world for the whole reproduction. And well, there is this additional armor plating here, but it's really insignificant because the driver's hatch is still very strong. And that brings us to the upper casement. So yeah, 225mm of rolled homogeneous armor, and this is just 25mm less than the 250mm on the Jagdtiger with cast homogeneous armor. So it's very, very strong, and it actually gives the Soviet tanks a lot of the problems. If they don't have the top-end APHE shells, they will not go through. And this is significant because it gives you so much more chance to receive a shot that does no damage because of the similarities to the Hori prototype. I will just compare them in a moment. So again, this here, then also this gun mantle here, this gun mantle here, or the actual gun mantle. Just don't shoot it here. Now, of course, it's flat, so APCR, APDS, and strong APHE shells still will go through, for example, from the Germans. Long 88, then also the 10.5 centimeters upgraded shell, and of course the Jagdtiger, or every 128mm shell, will go through this and one-shot you, because that is then very dangerous for you to get hit by. Then this side here is actually vulnerable to Soviet stock shells in the IS-6, of which I have received complaints about this tank being suddenly overpowered. Yeah, I just couldn't resist to mention this. But then again, there is this weak spot. But again, it's small, and so Soviet tankers now actually have to aim for this, and not just sling a shot somewhere there or there and expect to penetrate. Especially with the BR 471B shell, which has 207 millimeters of penetration, it now gets tricky, because if you hit this engine cooling devices here in front, it reduces the penetration of the shell enough that you will not penetrate the armor behind it. So you actually have to aim around this part here and this part here, not this part because that is then angled again, or just simply this part and you will penetrate. Or just shoot here, immobilize, drive to the side and one-shot the tank, which is an actual tactic that I recommend. Speaking about the sight, we have 75 millimeters everywhere, and you know, here are some additional armor platings, but nothing really to write home about. So this is where you should shoot here, be underneath or between the tracks, and you will one-shot the tank. Then the rear armor, relatively weak, especially in comparison to the Ferdinand, to which I will compare it later on as well. So insanely tough and bouncy from the front. If you can hide this part here, you need at least 240 millimeters of penetration to reliably deal with this tank at medium to long range. And you have a lot of survivability. 6 crew members, 2 in the front, with the transmission protecting actually the weak spot. So much like with the Tiger II's hull, if you penetrate the lower front, you still need a very good shell to punch through this. Then there is still the engine and the fuel tanks protecting the MRAC in the rear. Then we have 4 crew members in the 2 loaders, commander and the gunner, with the gunner sitting on the right hand side if you look at it from the front. Remove those 12 shells by removing 11 shells, or at least 11 shells. One is already registered as being in the breach, and you are safe from getting one-shotted by solid shots going through. And we can see we have a lot of target from the side, target area, but for solid shots or APDS rounds, there is so much space where they can hit and deal no damage. If you remove this MRAC here, this here, there above the engine, this part here, I've seen British tanks just punching through there and doing absolutely nothing. I turned around, one-shot at them and felt good about it. So there is that. Your natural enemy from the side, of course, is APHE or a well-aimed shot at this MRAC here. So, and that brings us to some more stats and statistics. And I want to begin with the, well, comparison to a lot of tanks with the mobility. And we can see that I have double the horsepower than on the prototype. And I am a bit heavier, but it's worth of the trade, because the respective horsepower to ton ratio goes up to 16.92 compared to the Hori prototype 10.78, and that puts you at second place after the Jagdpanzer 4.5, and you're faster than anything else, even the Object 268, and you have comparable armor. Just think about this. It is so hilarious to see something like the Hori production just zoom across the battlefield with that kind of armor at a top speed of 40 kilometers an hour, which he actually can reach. And so, I mean, it's not outstandingly fast, but it's faster than the Ferdinand, it's faster than the Conway, it's effectively faster than the Jagdtiger on most terrains, and you just can go over terrain just so much faster. The reverse gear is where it gets tricky. Okay, and this is the hidden gem. You can see that I have written minus 40 and minus 6 kilometers an hour. Minus 6 kilometers an hour is the first gear, which you just reach if you simply press S. And you think yourself, okay, I have so much horsepower, I have so much going forward tendency, why does this tank not allow me to go backwards? Well, it actually allows you to go at minus 40 kilometers an hour. You just need to shift the gear. And this is where I think that there is still a kind of a bug within the tank or the driving model. And if you press S and just tap Q, at least that it is how it's bound to me by the automatic reverse gear, then it will shift into the second gear, and from that on, the tank just zooms backwards, even faster than the Ferdinand. And it's just, you feel like one of those Japanese cars, like you look ridiculous and you drive ridiculous. And that then gives you also the so much more freedom to deal with a tank that tries to flank you. He thinks, aha, I have you. And you press S, tap the Q key once, and you zoom back, drift around, and just have their side. I've catched so many people off guard once I figured that out, which took me a while and was actually done by accident. And you also cannot count on, activating, so to speak, the second gear by just driving down hills in reverse. And that gives you such a big advantage compared to the Hori prototype, where that trick doesn't work. And so you're faster than any other tank in reverse, except of course the Jagdpanzer V5, but that's rather an exception in this respect. And I think it's just hilarious. And you need it because you have no neutral steering. So we have insane mobility. However, the top speed of 40 kilometers an hour on big maps really holds you back. I mean, you're still faster than most other tanks, but the engine could do just so much more. Well, then let's talk about the firepower, and the Hori production actually somewhat disappoints here, but it's not so obvious in the initial stats. But I will point out what really holds this tank a little bit back. So we have the 105mm Type 5 gun compared to the 105mm experimental high velocity gun on the prototype. So those are actually different guns. You have the same amount of shells with 51 and a reload of 8.6 seconds. And this is very interesting because that's a rather fast reload for a normal gun, I'd say. So for example, the normal long 88 reloads with around about 8.1 seconds for an ace crew, that is. But here we have the Ferdinand, of course, which has 2 loaders for the single piece ammunition that goes down to 6.7 seconds, and the Jagdpanzer V5 with 5.6 for the 90mm, which is outstandingly fast. And well, those are then smaller calibers. It comes to the comparison where it really shines when we go to the bigger calibers. For example, the Conway. 14.9, and that just has APDS and hash. Then also the Jagdtiger Object 268 and also the SU-122-54 have significantly longer reloads. So then we also have here the turret rotation speed, which is not outstandingly bad, but 6 degrees per second is really annoying. Just the Jagdtiger with 5.0 degrees per second, and the SU-122 is a little bit slower than that. But then you have to make up most of the time with your mobility. So then there's also the gun depression with minus 10 degrees, which is the very best in this comparison. However, if you want to depress your gun over the very edge of what allows you the gun traverse, it's slower than that because of the breach having a problem. You have also the very same thing that the hatch opens on top if you depress the gun over the front of the vehicle. And we have 20 degrees of gun elevation, which is also very nice. The elevation speed, however, is the problem, in my opinion, with 4 degrees per second. Yes, it's better than the Object 268 and the Jagdtiger, and it's very much the same like any other tank destroyer, but I think that's a drawback on all tank destroyers, especially with very good mobility, because you have to go to a standstill and then take the shot. And if you look around like I do, you always automatically depress the gun, so it takes you precious seconds to elevate the gun to shoot at an enemy. However, the armor holds up, so it's not as frustrating, for example, as on the Jagdpanzer V5, therefore. So that's the mobility, which is outstanding and fun, and remember the reverse gear. Then we have the raw gun stats. Then, well, let's talk about the ammunition, shall we? We have basically just 2 shell types, and the first one is the experimental HE shell, and that is in fact the very same shell that you get on the Hori prototype. 16 kilogram heavy warhead with a respectable muzzle velocity for an HE shell of 920 meters per second, and well, we have a great penetration of 30 millimeters. That is actually pretty good for a 105mm gun, so it might be usable in certain situations, especially to splash somebody or whatnot, but most of the cases it's not that useful. And that brings me to the second shell type. which is the Type 2 APHE shell, and that is a bit different shell compared to the prototype's APHE shell, but I think the biggest two differences are the muzzle velocity of 1000 meters per second, so you have around about the same muzzle velocity as on the long 88, and penetration wise, well, that is a bit strange because you get an increased penetration of 227 millimeter at point blank range and even 200 millimeters at 1000 meters, but that is a bit less than the long 88, and it's around about the post-war shell of the Russian 122 millimeter on the IS-3, IS-4, and so forth. So, you know, it's weaker than the long 88 in terms of penetration. It doesn't have the penetration of the Tiger 2 with the 10.5 centimeter gun with the upgraded APHE shell. So you know where to shoot with this kind of shell if you're used to German tanks. That's the base message. The TNT equivalent, however, is 200 grams. 200 grams. Let me just show you what this can do. Oh no, the strongest tank in the game, the 100. One shot. Yeah, took out the crew and ignited the ammunition on a tank that has not received any damage before and is known for its damage taking capabilities. So you can deal for sure with this kind of tank, and also Panther 2s, no problem with that. Sadly, however, that is the only armor-piercing shell that you have, and it's also not safe from failing you from time to time. Here I fire at an object 120, just penetrate the front once, set the engine on fire. With the second shot I actually penetrate the turret front and don't kill the tank in one shot. So it actually needs 3 shots to take down this target. That is a bit larger, and I think that's a bit annoying, so yeah. And here in the shell comparison we now can see the differences between the various shell types. So the APHE shell is not the worst, but it's definitely not the best, and I think it's a trade-off because you don't have anything other to go for. So your HE shell doesn't make up for that, and unlike, for example, the Ferdinand that has still APHE and the higher rate of fire and sits at a much lower battle rating, and the SU-122-54 has everything that you want. It has even a slightly better APHE shell in terms of penetration, more damaging effect, slower muzzle velocity, has a better HE shell, has even APDS and Heat FS if you really want to crack something. So you can see where the whole prototype stands. It's an old school tank in this respect. APHE and HE, that's all you get. And well, you know, but then again, the APHE shell is so much more reliable than, for example, tanks that just rely on APDS, for example, like the Conway. Now I just want to show you a sequence of scenes. First of all, IS-3, driver's hatch, nope. So this is my experience with Soviet tanks. Something like shot trap or some magical shot doesn't work for me. You have to deal with them manually. What do I mean by that? First of all, take out their gun. Yes. And then they are forced to stay still. And that's not enough. So he has to repair, and I just push him. I push him, then I can shoot at the vulnerable lower part behind the tracks and one-shot him. Nice result right there. So that's a one-time off, right? No, not really. That's an IS-4, and he has bothered our team quite significantly. So he bounced the shot, I bounce off him, and we can see how we are both jockeying for position. And yeah, here I did not know the secret about the reverse gear. The tank was not fully upgraded, yet I had to do something about it. I need to abuse the long reload, and I want to shoot the gun. But he does the one thing that is logical, he blinds me with machine gun fire, and ultimately I miss the gun breach, which is bad. So, and he shoots the part where he actually can deal damage to me, which is the transmission area. So I aim carefully, and now hold the shot. Yeah, there we go. That's the cannon barrel down. And now, you know, I write it in chat, communication with the team, what to do now. Where is a point with the IS-4 and I can shoot him when he's angled? Shot trap doesn't work. It does not work for me. When it works, it's just a random shot where I miss somebody and shot trap somebody behind this guy. So again, this is just bad. So I track him to and lengthen the repair time. This is very important. And now I charge into him. So in the prototype, he probably would have one-shot me before. And he wiggles his... And again, it's so difficult to aim at somebody's shot trap potential if there are bushes all around. I'm still hesitating, and I decide myself to track him with the second track so that there are no surprises. This is a long, enduring way. We are in a very tiny space and there is no chance of me getting charged by another Soviet tank anytime soon. And you can see again I use my horsepower. By the way, at that point I was not fully upgraded, so I didn't have the new engine. Push him to the sides and execute him. But you know, that was just the IS-3 and the IS-4. You know what's coming. My all-time favorite tank in the game, the IS-6. So here I'm on Fulda, I flanked hard and I was trying my best. I see an IS-6, he just shoots somewhere. Hey, I'm not your average Panzer IV or Panther or Tiger II that you can do that stuff. I'm a Hori production. So again, what to do? Prevent him from charging. First of all, I tried to track him, which I successfully do. What to do now? What to do now? Do not angle against this tank. If he immobilizes me, he can shoot me all day long. Shoot the cupola. Yeah, I hit too good, so I now simply charge him and shoot him in the side because you have to pull off those shots. Yeah, this is how you can deal with an IS-6. But again, I had to flank him, I had to immobilize him, and he did not know how to deal with me. So I think that is a bit of a problematic situation. And here are some of my favorite situations against IS-6s again. So I bounced off the side of the turret. It was a little bit angled and I tried to still penetrate the side at that point and it just doesn't go through. So at this point in time, what should I have done? Should I have aimed from the cupola from the rear? Should I have immobilized him here? Yeah, I actually do this now and want to charge him. I'm actually behind enemy lines where the Russians just have ruffle stomped our team. And yeah, somebody shoots me from behind, tracks me with an ATGM. It's of course the BMP-1 and I have to bail out. That's such a awesome shot. Side of the turret, 227 millimeters are not enough to go through. He just shoots somewhere and at that point in time, even that shot trap did not work for me. How much better should I aim? I'm sorry, but the IS-6 is the tank that I just have the most problems with. And this guy did something very smart. He side-script and he tracked me. And this is now the problematic with a stock tank. Look what my tracks are doing. They're getting no grip. I cannot reverse. I cannot face the way that I know this guy will come. I'm marking for my team, but at this point in time, there is just no hope for me. The IS-6 is the world's most balanced tank. So, again, you know, whatever you wanna say, this is just my experience. But it's not just limited to IS-6s. T-34-100, really? Interaction rules, penetration values, overmatch mechanics, they don't work on Russian tanks from time to time. And I think, what is there left to say? This gun has its limits. And so the last gameplay that I wanted to show you is a gameplay on Berlin, and I will begin again with the scene of the IS-4. So far I've wasted like 8 minutes trying to snipe something, trying to get into position. I was locked down by object 120, you see the damage that I sustained, and I have not gotten a kill aside from this IS-4, and so I tried to charge in. Currently we are in possession of 2 capture zones. Very good driving here on my part, and I wanted to see if I can get a new angle of attack on the object 120. I was not quite sure if it was already taken out, and you know, so forth. Nobody came around this corner of my team, so maybe the enemy team is not expecting it, and we can see not a lot of traffic here around. And you can see the reverse gear is very poor if you don't use the Q key to accelerate into second gear and so forth. So I did not know it at that time, which is a shame, because maybe I would have gotten a bit different out of this battle. So there you can see, but that you also have a lot of drag. The usual stock grind is just so annoying. Despite having a good stock horsepower to ton ratio, it feels like the Hori prototype is better than you when you are stock, because of what the track does. And the track module actually don't solve this problem. I have to say the stock grind on this tank is actually not that bad. There are no shells that you have to go for, and you just can concentrate on the gun upgrade, so the more accurate gun, and that's the most vital part. At this point in time I was not quite sure what to do. I expected already a lot of spawn campers here. It's a dire situation. Now the enemy team possesses 2 capture zones. This T-29 was, well, driving out in front of me sideways on. The shell does the job. And you somewhat can fire on the move. I wouldn't rely on it, but yet you can do it. And you can see how long, how painful it is to cut corners in this tank. And how just the braking side just gets dragged with the tank, which is super annoying. And puts you into dangerous situations more than often. So the enemy team possesses now 3 capture zones. I decap 1 and intend to fully cap it. Put myself into a careful position where nobody can shoot me from behind. At this point in time, the Soviets just have simply overrun the German team. There is not much left of the German team. I still try my best, but I still have to give away my position with simply capping the point. I have to, otherwise I cannot lose. We still have a points advantage, but what to do? You know, there are always those campers. I receive some random shot, and it is my old friend, the IS-6. So I try to find the cupola, and I miss it. But then again, I have a relatively quick reload. I hear bombs that are going off behind me, and yeah, it's not a very nice situation. I just have to wait for the IS-6 to make a mistake. I do not really feel comfortable with charging him. I have no support. If he tracks me, it's over. So of course he makes something stupid and drives in the open sideways on, and of course the shell doesn't go through because it's only just 20mm of armor behind the position where I shot, because, you know, balance. And so I facehug him, so he cannot immobilize me. I try my best to shoot at the cupola, and he dunks the shot. So now I take my time, and again I aim for the cupola. He stands still for a moment, and that's enough to make the connecting shot. I deliberately aimed a little bit to the side of the cupola to not hit the optics, and I cannot reload in time to deal with this T-34, but at least I can warn my team. Currently B is captured, which is nice. So I still have to battle hard to secure the area. I just saw this M26, or no, M46, sorry about this, which was doing nothing. Okay then, I take the kill. This is now very dangerous to drive over the open. I try to desperately get into position. Hopefully nobody shoots me in the side. I still observe the area, and then I see an enemy. So the planes are very annoying. They give my position away. It's not very nice. So currently we possess all 3 capture zones, so this is nice. This actually gives me the freedom to deal with this T-44, hopefully once he comes out of the ditches. So I'm not very used to this position, and the plane is hammering again, so I expect actually the T-44 to be aware of me, but he just drives very calm to the capture zone. And I'm not quite sure where he will appear again. I tried to get the connecting shot into him. The shell does not kill him because the gun breech absorbs all the shrapnel, so the gunner is still alive. The tank still has 2 crew members alive, so he goes into the capture zone and decaps it. And the enemy team have already captured C by now, so I tried to go for the side of the turret and find the cupola shot. Very nice indeed. So now I have to expose my rear to the usual camping site, but I have to capture this point. I need to further initiate the ticket bleed. We are so close to winning, really. It's not much that we have to do to secure the game. But there are so many enemies left, at least when I look at the team list, and not a lot of team members. So again, I put myself into a position where I am able to look into C or around that area, because I expect this T-34 to be somewhere. I adjust my aim, see him, sayonara. This time it doesn't bounce and I get the kill. That was deeply satisfying. Now there is a Yak Panther with me, and we can go to B, or actually try to get C even. And then I get stuck here. I have to reverse again. I don't know the trick yet about the Q key, so I give this information for you. 2 planes are attacking me with cannon fire. They are nothing but boring, yet they give away my position. And then there is a T-44. He doesn't spot me, but I spot him. I take the lead. Finally he shoots at me in return, but I kill him through the turret front. And this time the shell doesn't bounce for my 7th kill. And the enemy team is already about to go for B. They are currently capturing it. One of my tanks, the Yak Panther, is there. And I get again strafed by aircraft. And finally they track me with cannon fire. 30-second repair time. Ouch. So I cannot support my Yak Panther, which got killed in the process. So is now the tank from B charging me? I'm helpless. I have to repair my damn tracks. I have no support. There is just one heavy tank there. There is just one heavy tank there that could potentially charge into B. But I don't know what's in B or where that particular tank is going. Maybe he has also support from another tank. We are just so close to winning. We are so damn close to winning. I just have to capture the zone once. So this time I do not look for the usual sniper position of the enemy team. I want to directly charge into B, and you know, it's that one mistake that you make that then costs you dearly. And this time it was a side shot from a T-44. Ouch, that hurt. I'm pretty sure I could have dealt with this guy with ease from the front, but it was that one time that I did not look. And I know that he's going for B, so I use a backup vehicle and try to charge into A. And I have no idea why this heavy tank is not moving. What is there? I give away the position to the rest of my team. We are just so close to winning, yet the enemy is currently holding the capture advantage. So A gets decaptured. Damn it. Damn it, damn it, damn it. That puts a lot of pressure on my team. And obviously, if the T-44 is playing it smart, he just has to hide behind the building. What is this Tiger 2 doing there? Why isn't it not charging? Go for B, quick. Yeah, go for it or we lose. I see a quick glimpse of the T-44 here around the building in just a moment. But before that, I see the American heavy tank. And yeah, that might be the reason why the Tiger 2 is not advancing. And you can see how long it takes to turn that damn tank, even with this horsepower to ton ratio. For my 8th kill. Sadly, the Tiger 2 will not make it into B in time. C gets currently decaptured by a AAA. Very good play by him, but the pressure is on me, and I have no words for this. Gaijin, I have absolutely no words for this. This just non-penetration on the turret front of a T-44 will cost us the game, so spoilers alert. C gets captured, but I cannot decapture A. I cannot decapture A. And I'm in a casemate tank destroyer against a tank with a turret. I'm in a disadvantage. The Tiger 2 tries to approach and probably tries to help me, but he cannot make it in time. I have to go the risky way, I have to charge this guy. And he actually got afraid of me and run away. He played it safe, he played it smart, and there was nothing that I could do, and we lost the game. What a heartbreak. And I think it shows you just what the tank can do, how good it is when it fights under, well, conditions that are clearly in your favor when it comes to head-on frontal engagements. And yeah, just 36, not even 37,000 civilians, 3,570 research points with a premium account with 8 kills and 2 capture zones. Yes, we lost, but still, this is just demoralizing. The tank income is very poor, and I'm just second in team with that, with over 4,000 score points because somebody went into a plane and strafed certain positions. So what a heartbreaker to end this tank, but it summarizes what the tank has to deal, where it gets gets up against enemies that very often don't know with which version of the whole read they are dealing with. And that's actually it for me today, so thanks for watching, thanks for listening. Please give this video a like if you did, subscribe if you want to see more, and we'll see each other on the battlefields of War Thunder.